water and how much. We can't have those conversations or fights without water at the source. So protecting our forests, I think, is of the utmost importance. We do not do that work. We rely on our partners like DOFA and the watershed partnerships to do a lot of the actions on the ground. We can advocate for funding to support that work. We also have, as Dean mentioned, we have a variety of plans, including the Hawaii Water Plan. The Ag Water Use and Development Plan is one component of that larger Hawaii Water Plan, but it also includes the Water Resource Protection Plan. And within that plan, we talk about the importance of, Mauka to Makai flow of water, the importance of watershed health more generally and broadly. We do have partnerships with our Makai agencies like Division of Aquatic Resources. We're obviously working with both public and private landowners that occupy kind of that middle area between our mountains and oceans. It's a group effort when it comes to managing our freshwater resources, and the role of planning, and my role within the commission, is really to bring all of those partners and agencies together to have those conversations about how we can actually make that happen. Aaron can probably comment a bit more on intermittent stream flows, and that's one way we can restore stream flow and make that Malcolm and Makai connection.
Thank you. I might as well introduce Dr. Aaron Strauss. He's a hydrologist with the Stream Protection and Management Branch. Doctor, there may be a few questions here that you can answer. First thing, if you can please explain the permitting and regulatory processes for surface water and wells. And next question, it would be, if the USGS test wells are no longer being used, what would be required in order for farmers to be able to access them?
I laugh because I don't do permitting, but I'm gonna talk briefly over this dual mandate protection of reasonable beneficial use. You can't protect or allocate or use what you don't know and you don't know what you don't measure. So part of our role at the Commission on Water Resource Management is to monitor our aquifers, monitor our streams. So part of my role and responsibility is to conduct stream surveys, monitor stream discharge across the state, and we use that information to inform recommendations. In terms of permitting and regulation, on the stream protection and management side, we have two types of regulations: stream diversion works permits, which are construction permits to remove water from a stream channel, and then stream channel alteration permits. Those are permits that are used to protect or alter a stream channel, such as a bridge that has a pier in the stream. So that is a permit to alter the stream, but you're not removing any water from the stream. In designated water management areas, we also issue water use permits for surface water, and those are in Navaeha, on Maui, and most recently in Lahaina. On the groundwater side, we have groundwater or a well construction permit, which is similarly a construction permit that has a definite deadline, and then a pump installation permit associated with that well, and then in water management areas, a water use permit. I don't know if I covered what you asked me to, but
Definitely. Just some follow-up questions. Can you share with us, or do you have any metrics or data for current stream levels in Kohala? Anything to compare it to, like baseline, or your most recent readings?
Definitely. I will reiterate that we have limited financial resources statewide to monitor all of our water resources, so we have to prioritize. We do have one USGS gauging station that the Commission funds through a cooperative agreement, which will be renewed annually in August. So in 19 days, we're renewing that. And that is on Awinipoali, up in just north of where the flume that was on the Kohala ditch. So it monitors natural flow on the Awinipoali stream. It's not a real-time station, so we don't get that information in real time, but you can look at the historic flows over the last 6 years, and we are prioritizing maintaining that stream gauge. So we have an index station, if you will, of natural flow conditions in this area. The Water Commission has also installed one monitoring station on a stream just west of there, and we are looking at installing additional stations to better characterize flow regimes across the region. Understanding that with climate change, flow regimes are expected to change, getting a sense for how much water is actually available is really important for making future management recommendations.
And what stream is that again?
Neoliti is the most recent station installed by staff, and then we're looking at maybe Kohala or somewhere else.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Next up, we have Mr. John Richards from Waimea Water Source Services. John, there's several questions, so I'll just start with the first few. Please tell us more about North Kohala's aquifer. How is the aquifer monitored? And what are the long-term impacts of drilling water? What evidence can we base our decisions on? And what practices can we implement to ensure that we're not damaging, but rather protecting our aquifer for future generations?
Well, the biggest thing to remember when you talk about aquifers throughout the state, they're managed by CWRM. CWRM actually goes through a very long process. It's pretty complex. You can look it up online, but they do what's called a RAM2 model, and they determine what's referred to as a sustainable yield. A sustainable yield is the amount of water that can be pulled from the ground without negatively impacting the aquifer on a daily basis. One of the things to remember about the Hawaii aquifers is they're a little different than a lot of the ones you see on the mainland, in that most of these are actually flowing. The rainfall on the land slowly works its way down, and then it's moving towards the ocean. It can go through several different structures in there. There could be dike systems, which are basically vertically impounding the water. There can also be what's called high-level water, water that's been pushed back a little bit in the mountain. There can also be perched aquifers that are sitting on top of a layer that for some reason it doesn't pass through. So it's a pretty complex process, but at the most basic level is understanding the sustainable yield and staying within that to avoid actual any damage to the aquifer itself. Now the good news is if something bad does start to happen, namely the chlorides begin to rise, it's also realized that the basal aquifer, the one that's at sea level, you're never going to pump it down. It doesn't go anywhere because the seawater will come in. What you'll actually see is you'll start to see a rise in chlorides if you're doing something wrong in the area. So the key, one of the important elements though, is it's not permanent. If something starts to happen, you stop pumping, the flow will eventually return it back to its equilibrium, the equilibrium it was at before, which is important to realize that even though if we're not exactly sure, we can watch it through close monitoring, avoid any damage or pulling anything into that we don't want to see. Now, the other thing as far as the strategies go, it's a real important element in Kohala to realize that Kohala is not all the same, and we all know this. When you get out near Upolu and beyond, it gets really dry. As you go towards the valleys, it gets really wet. When you look at the sustainable yields, it's reflected in that. When you look at the hobby aquifer, which essentially goes about from the point all the way back to the beginning of the valleys, its sustainable yield is about 11 million gallons a day, and this is the CWRM documentation. But as soon as you hit the Waimea aquifer, it jumps up to 110 million gallons a day. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, but it's going to take a lot of the same strategies that were used to build the ditch, moving water from the wet areas to the dry areas. Now it's also important with that is realize that you don't need to necessarily follow the only ditch line. The ditch line was the technology at the time, flowing it down the ditch line, tunneling through the ground, and let's be honest, today, we're not doing a lot of hard rock tunneling in Hawaii, especially where we put people in it or anything else. That gets a little difficult and a little hairy. It's also extremely expensive, but there's a lot of new technology, even going as far as pumping or picking up the water in different locations and allowing it to flow in to minimize the impact in the areas that have lower sustainable yields. Does that answer the question?
Yes, so 2 follow-up questions. Assuming that you could have water sharing agreements between parcels, what is the estimated number of wells needed to serve majority of North Kohala, and what will we do if there is a drought?
Well, first of all, just touching on the drought element, droughts tend to be shorter lived, a couple of years, whereas the aquifer takes much more time to both fill up and draw down. So from a water flow standpoint, wells are a good reserve in the event of a drought. The bigger issue that comes up during a drought is the demand goes up, because as of course there's less rainfall, higher demand for irrigation. What was the other part of that? There's a lot of different ways this question goes.
What will we do if there's a drought?
Oh, that'll handle the drought. As far as the number of wells, one of the things about the land here is it is actually pretty porous. The well, for example, out in Kohala that everyone's seen on the side of the road being worked on, that was pump tested about 900 gallons a minute. That's approximately 1.2 million gallons a day. Well, when you look at the Hobby Aquifer, you could only realistically put about 7 of those in this region. There are more than that, but of course there are lower flow levels. One of the things you want to minimize doing is extra piping and extra lift. Energy and water, in the case of pumping, are essentially interchangeable. So what you want to do is you only want to lift the water as high as it needs to go in order to be used for its intended purposes. A lot of times you see people trying to do simplified systems where they put a tank at the top, they pump everything up and then flow it down. While that simplifies the system, it dramatically increases energy consumption. So what you need to do is you'll have to identify your actual needs of water, and you'll adjust the well size, location, pumping volume, and total lift in order to maximize the return on the amount of energy and the size of the systems that you put in to deliver the water at the lowest cost and lowest energy cost. Again, with water, the big part of the factor is the infrastructure and the energy really drive what that water costs. It has a very, very major impact on agriculture, of course, with the tighter margins.
Thank you, John. Next up, we have the Department of Water Supply, Keith Okamoto and Kurt Inaba. 2 questions. What is the process of getting groundwater? Please explain the drilling requirements for potable water compared to agricultural water. Additionally, are individual wells monitored for consumption, and are there any regulations regarding consumption?
Okay, yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks Uncle David for the invite and to be part of the discussion. And I think like John mentioned earlier, it kind of goes back to those guys over here to my right. Yeah, they're kind of smiling, they're snickering because actually that's a question for them. But for us, as any well driller in the state, whether it be private or municipal entities such as ourselves, we need to get that well construction permit from the State Commission on Water Resource Management. And with that comes reporting requirements. You need to report monthly what you're pumping out of there. Us, as a drinking water utility, what I want to share with everybody, well, first of all, who is on county water? All right, thank all you guys. Appreciate it, and I appreciate your patience when we have issues as well. But we appreciate everybody in the community because we're actually here to serve the whole community, which is why we're involved in this ag discussion as well. But getting back to the question, for drinking water, there's a ton of regulations. So we got to monitor both at the source and within the distribution system. I can't go into the details. That's a question that maybe Kurt can touch upon. But there's a ton of things that we need to test for monthly, sometimes on different terms, on different durations, a bunch of things basically to prove that the water is safe to drink. But again, that being said, like everybody else, if we want to drill a well for our system, we need to go through the permitting process with CWRM, which involves knowing how much you want to pump from where, and it's tied to what John talked about, the sustainable yield. All that goes into determining whether or not that permit is viable to process. Us as a driller need to provide CWRM with whatever information they need so they can make their decision to approve or not approve the well. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, sure.
More specifics.
And if Kurt has anything to add to that.
Yes, I know the question on individual wells. We don't really get involved with that, but I know as far as monitoring and reporting, I know that is a requirement. I know CWRM has worked really hard to help make it easier for the individuals to do so. Mainly because it made it easier for us to report our own pumping also. But it may be CWRM. We don't have that groundwater. So all water users, whether it's surface water or groundwater, has to report monthly their individual use. That's statewide. So we have, actually one of the slides was the total monthly pumpage for the last 20 years of the Hobby Aquifer system. So if anybody's curious, we can throw that out there.
Yeah, if you could provide that later, I can look it up. Thank you.
Just as someone speaking that actually does the reporting each month for several wells, It's for a well, it's usually depth of water, total pumpage, and electroconductivity. Electroconductivity tells you how much salt's in the water. Remember I was talking about where you'll see a rise in salinity? That's one of the things you're watching for. Changes in temperature also reflect the changes in flow. So everything we do is trying to recognize any subtle changes that begin to take place. CWRM, of course, be made aware of it, and then we can make any adjustments necessary.
Appreciate it. Thank you, John. Moving on to Hawaii Drilling Pump Service, Fred Camaro. Fred, how difficult is it to obtain a drilling permit? What determines designated areas where water might or might not be available? And are there any specific specifications around property size?
Thank you for the question, and I want to thank David and the Kohala community for having me on this panel. I was born and raised on Samoa, and I used to, this part of the island is very near and dear to me because it reminds me so much of my hometown. But the last time I was actually in this gym was about 10 years ago. My son was playing in a high school basketball for a school I'm not going to name. And I just remember the Kohala Cowboys smashed us. So I remember the crowd being so passionate and energetic, and I hope you guys are passionate and energetic for water as you are with your Kohala Cowboys. But we've been talking a lot about surface water with the Kohala ditch. There is, John mentioned about groundwater and high level water and perch water. So that's where we come in. We are a specialized contractor that drills into the ground to gain access to these aquifers. It's hard work, hard drilling, hard basalt. So what we do is very risky and difficult, yet very rewarding and vital to the community. What we do, we have to rely on so many people. We have to rely on our friends from the Water Commission, who, with their well construction standards, make sure we are constructing the well in accordance with their standards. We have to rely on friends from the Department of Water Supply. We deal with them mainly on the pump side, so we have to make sure that our pumps are specified in accordance with their directives to make sure that the wells are reliable and the water is safe for drinking. And then we got friends that rely, smart guys like John Richards, consultants who are engineers and geologists to help with the design of the well and the pump itself. But that's actually one of the questions that I have that gets asked of me a lot is how long does it take for the permits, the well construction permits and the pump installation permits to take? And because of so many people involved with the constructing of a well, it takes short answer, I don't know. We have to apply for a well construction permit, and in that process, we need to make sure our design is correct, like what has been said already. We have to go through several agencies, CWRM has to go through several agencies, specifically SHPD, State Historic Preservation Division, Department, where we've got to make sure that where we are drilling does not impact any archaeological or hayhouse or things of that nature. Recently, there's also been this Kapa'akai analysis, where we are making sure that there are no impacts with traditional and customary practices with the native Hawaiians. We've got to make sure that the area is not in a special management area. It's not in a conservation district. It's not in a designated groundwater management area. So you need another type of permit, a water use permit. So those are some of the challenges for obtaining a well construction permit. And then once we drill the well, we case the well, we test pump the well, based on the results of the test, then we can determine, then we can apply for a pump installation permit. Sometimes we do that in conjunction with the well construction permit, but typically you want to make sure your well can produce before you actually go ahead and apply for a pump installation permit.
Thank you, Fred. Next up, we have USDA NRCS Andrew Stout. Question for you will be, please share the NRCS program related to surface water catchments and reservoirs.
Okay, my name is Drew Stout. I'm a civil engineer. I work for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Thank you, David, for inviting me. David's actually been a client of mine for 20 years, I think. I've seen at least a half a dozen other clients in the crowd today. If you're not familiar with NRCS, every county in the country has an NRCS office. Yours is in Waimea, in the back of the Parker Ranch Center. Our core mission is to help people help the land. So what we do is we work with private landowners, typically farmers and ranchers. We develop a comprehensive plan, and we look at protecting soil, water, animals, plants, air, and basically we try to help you farm or ranch better, so you can do it for a longer period of time. We have lots of experts. I'm an engineer. We have biologists, archaeologists, foresters, grazing specialists. Our services are free. You just contact the office. We'll send a planner out to the farm or the ranch, meet with you, and we try to look at what's going right and what's not going right on the farm. We come up with a plan together. All our advice is free. You can take it or leave it. But if you do follow our advice, there's funding available. Typically, cost share, meaning the client puts the money up front first, and then we reimburse at a set rate. It's typically 50 or 90% of material labor to install the system. Most of my work revolves around water. I design stock water drinking systems, irrigation systems, animal waste, field roads, erosion control structures. But for livestock drinking water, one of the things that I help design are catchment systems, meaning we catch rainwater, we store them, and then we run it out to the fields or pipelines for animals to drink. Lots of locations on the island have no source for agriculture nor drinking water. So these systems can be vital for a farm or ranch to survive. I've done really small ones from a simple roof that might be 20 by 20 with a 10,000 gallon tank for 1 or 2 cows to the biggest herd I've ever done catchment for is 600 cattle, which that system probably costs $250,000 and had a big reservoir and a big catchment area that was lined. So these aren't cheap systems, but we help pay for them. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Drew.
So you can sign up for information, and I have some handouts. And if you have any questions about water, as far as agriculture goes, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Next up, we have Wendy Gaddy from Agribusiness Development Corporation. Historically, before pre-contact era, North Kohala fed themselves with about 30,000 population. Deep soil, diverse climate zones, and potentially abundant water source and open space. We have the capability of contributing to our state vision of food sustainability. North Kohala is one of the few communities without state agricultural parks. With state lands available in North Kohala, what are the possibilities of creating agricultural parks with these long-term leases for the future generation?
Thank you. My seat got really hot all of a sudden over here. I wanted to start by saying that I believe that ADC is one of the greatest gifts the Ledge has ever given the people of Hawaii. And I would challenge you to take action and read our statute, which is 163D. A lot of times people want to know what's the difference between ADC, DLNR, and the Department of Ag. We were given the most amazing powers, and it was a challenge for us to step in as sugar and pineapple was stepping out and to help diversify the ag economy of Hawaii. So the ADC was given the power to purchase land. In the case of DLNR, they can purchase land, they can also condemn land. In the case of Department of Ag, they can condemn land. So we can purchase land, which is really important. One of the things that happened on my drive over is if I had $1 for every time that interim appointee Nathan Trump said Kohala is a community driven by action, I could have a new iPad for my son on the way home. So I would suggest that you take action and you write the governor and say thank you for appointing an interim voice for the island of Hawaii, because there has not been an appointee from the island of Hawaii for over a decade. He is your voice. Raise your hand. I'm going to ask that you take action in the next session, and you will need to write and call in to support him as a bona fide board member. He is interim appointed right now. We are here to show respect to the Kohala community, and we brought 3 sets of ears. So I'm here, we have our interim appointed board member Trump, and we also have Chair Tabata. Raise your hand, I'm gonna give a shout out. So it's a chance for you guys to talk story with us. We're here to listen. And one of the things that we did this past year is we listened to the island of Hawaii. And one of the things they were very concerned about was DLNR was going to shut down the East Hawaii irrigation system, and they asked for us to step in. We are taking control of the East Hawaii irrigation system through an EO. We are adding 6 new employees to the island, and we're here to listen to you of what it is that you guys need. And one of the strongest things that you can do if you want to have a presence of ADC in your community is you get on our website and you fill out an expression of interest, because it makes it a lot easier for me to go to Representative Tarnas, Senator Richards, and say, we have 20 applications and Kohala wants 20,000 acres of land to go back into food production. Then with that, it helps us go to the ledge and ask for money to buy. So that's one of the things we can do. When you look at the powers that have been given to ADC, it is nothing short of incredible. We are like nothing that exists in the United States. We have the ability to purchase lands. We are currently operating 2 hydropower plants on the island of Hawaii, and we can issue revenue bonds. We can issue special purpose revenue bonds. We can also form subsidiaries. Those are kind of some unusual powers that don't sit in a lot of different departments. We are administratively attached to DBED, but we're here to listen to you guys. You have to tell us, what do you want? What do you need? Is it water? Is it land? What role should we play? And if you're introverted like my 2 daughters, you can certainly talk to Representative Board Member Trump after this event, but please bend the ear of our Chairman Tabata and myself and tell us what you need and how we can get involved. Did that answer your question?
What's your website?
It's just Google Agribusiness Development Corp, and it's under DBED. The EOI is 1 page. You can do it over an espresso. It's really fast. And you can tell us that, hey, we want to buy land. Hey, there's a building that we think you guys should buy because we need to have cooling. Hey, there's a water system we think that you guys should take over. You fill it out. The board is a working board. We currently have 7 permitted interaction groups going simultaneously. We're working on our strategic plan. We are working on a CIP plan for the next 10 years. You guys need to belly up to the bar and tell us how we can get involved and support your community. The ADC was founded with 3 goals in mind. The first one is to grow more local food. The second one is to develop an ag export business. We're in the fight of our life for suitcase share. If every suitcase, well, let's just say 25% of all the suitcases leaving Hawaii had some ag product in it, we've just created a $500 million industry. The third thing that is in our statute is we were created to be an aggressive and dynamic leader in ag. You need to talk to your board member Trump and tell him what that looks like. And you need to talk to Chair Tabata and tell him what that looks like. But we are here to support you. We're here to listen. Please talk to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think that answered our question. For any agricultural parts, see those 2 guys over there. Yeah. Thanks, Nathan. Oh, just so that concludes our panel for our first and a second panel for today. We'd like to thank guests. Please give them a round of applause. We sincerely like to thank our panelists. Some of them traveling from Oahu to come to us, other islands as well. So please, thank you for coming to our Kohala. At this time, I'd like to call up Cole Furtis to read us a letter from Representative Jill Takuda.
So here's our letter from United States Representative Jill Takuda. Sorry, can everybody hear me now? Okay, perfect. It reads, Aloha and welcome to everyone gathered for the Kohala Water Summit. My sincerest apologies for not being able to join you at the summit and Taste of Kohala, but I hope you have a productive event filled by good conversations and sharing of ideas, as well as ono food and good entertainment. Ma'aina requires individuals that comprise our communities to actively work together and choose to be responsible stewards of our land, water, and natural resources. The people and leaders gathered here today are proof of the Kohala Ohana's commitment to do just that, working to achieve solutions that improve water resource management, agriculture, and sustainability. Kohala is a special place in so many respects. The people of the community have a special bond with each other and with the land. I had the privilege of attending the Kohala reunion in 2022 that was appropriately themed Kohala Aina Ha'ahil, Kohala, Land of the Proud. I was awed by the sense of place and community spirit. It is this spirit that inspires all of you to come together with a shared collective vision for the future of Kohala. There is so much we can and must do. Working with all of you, I'll advocate for federal resources for Hawaii Island and ensure that you have a voice in farm bill negotiations, which only occurs every 5 years. Through my seat on the House Agriculture Committee, I can advance the priorities and actionable plans that rise to the forefront today and in the future. My best wishes to all of you for a productive summit, and a special mahalo to my friend David Fuertes for inviting me to this special event and for serving as a constant reminder that agriculture is very much a part of our local culture and a part of the way of life in Kohala. Mahalo, Jill Takuda.
Thank you, Cole. Good message from Jill. So, one more time, I gotta really give hands and hats off to our panelists coming from Oahu, traveling, spending time here with you in Kohala to share notes and to help us in the future. I think it's a big deal. I forgot to mention a little bit earlier, we're not gonna solve all the problems today. We're not gonna turn on the ditch tomorrow. But this is the stepping stone. And this is the framework for what we need for the future. And the future is water, land, but the ultimate goal is food sustainability so we can continue to live and eat here in Kohala. I get one more u'ala to give away, and you know, we might think it's just one more potato plant, but the pot nice too. But for me, this represents, as I spoke earlier, the past, because it's what our people grew and lived, cultivated, and survived on. The present, because I just ate one from home on. And the future, because you take this, you plant them, you can share with your neighbors and cultivate. And this thing really does make a potato that big and tasty. So, I'm gonna ask, does anyone have a birthday today? You can lie. Nope. Anybody had a birthday yesterday? Anybody have a birthday tomorrow? Okay, I'm gonna auction this plant off. Way down there, come over here. Oh, I'll bring it to you. Happy birthday. U'ala is your gift today. Okay, we're gonna jump into 5-minute bathroom break if you gotta go, and then we're gonna jump into our breakout sessions. I'm gonna call, please don't run away, because now is your chance. I'm sure all of you have questions, the wheels were turning, you might have suggestions. We are open to all of that. So I'm gonna call Leslie to come up and explain how the breakout sessions will be, how it will work. She's briefly gonna just share with you the rules, the basics, and all that good stuff. Leslie is one of our very hardworking people on our committee, along with Dr. David, and here's Leslie.
Right. I'm a little nervous because we're early. That feels like not my most comfortable zone, but really impressed with the precision of our panelists and our moderators. So thank you. We're really honored to be here in between all of our incredible experts and those who serve in these service roles to help us with agriculture and land and water and all of this incredible community and many friends and mentors. So thank you for being here. I am a aspiring farmer, and I am a member of our North Kohala Community Development Plan Agriculture Group, who is hosting this event today. And I also serve on our County of Hawaii Department of Research and Development Agriculture and Food Systems team. So big thanks to County R&D for helping to support and provide resources for this event. So let's see. Our next step is to go into some breakout rooms, or not rooms, but that's a Zoom term, right? But breakout groups. You can see we have numbers designated around the room, and you can see on your name tag, you might have a number. If you're a panelist or a candidate and you probably don't have a number, you can just choose any breakout group you like. We're going to try to split I'm not sure exactly how many folks are here versus how many we have registered, but take a look around. We'll try to split up evenly in those breakout groups. And this is an opportunity. We just all heard the same information, so also let's take a look around and thank ourselves and just acknowledge who's in the room today. I'm hearing the words, some of you guys were here with us last March, and I'm hearing the words of Sa'o echo in my head, who was just acknowledging that the folks who are here today and those who can't be present today, but who might like to be, these are some of the folks who really, truly care about what's happening in our community. So just much respect for you spending your time and your energy with us here today. It really means a lot. And so we just received a lot of information. We all received the same information. There's a lot of transparency. So now's the time in these smaller groups to have some discussions. What are our reflections, reactions? Do you folks have any questions that were unanswered? Are there still things that you want to know and would like answers to? This is the time to acknowledge those. It's also a time to, I know what the panelists shared, just the action orientation, or maybe it was a quote from Nathan, how Kohala is about action. And so this whole process that the agriculture working group is hosting is to support individuals to take action and collectively to take action. So as we're in these conversations, we're encouraging that we all hold that lens of what's my role in this? What am I willing to do and step forward in? So we have some facilitators, again, some of our county team. We also have folks from the Kohala Center and Ma'ala'i from Waimea. We're really thankful for that. Let's see, we also have community members that are going to support this facilitation. So we'll have about 45 minutes in the breakout groups. There'll be time for some large group discussion with about 20 folks in a group, and then we'll have some small team, 3 to 4 people conversations to get some of your ideas out. After the breakout session, our facilitation team is going to meet and debrief and kind of synthesize whatever information we can and collect what those outstanding questions are. If any of our panelists are available, I know you guys might have to go home, and that's fine, but if you want to debrief with us in the conference room, that's great. Maybe we can get some questions answered on the spot. But otherwise, all the information that's collected will be given to the agriculture working group, the water group, will continue to inform and move forward the work. Everyone's invited to join that agriculture water group. It's not like a special club. It's just, if you want to show up and have those conversations. Our agriculture working group meets the last Thursday of every month at the meeting at the Hub Barn. And we rotate which working groups meet, but water is one of those groups. So we encourage you answered or that we're going to be able to act on all of them, but we will share the questions that are presented with the panelists in case they have any more information that they can add to that. And then right before the close of the evening, the facilitation team will share a little bit of that information that was gathered and synthesized. So that's our breakout session. I think Bill wanted you guys to have a minute to take a break.
Well, yeah, you gotta use the bathroom.
It's hot, drink water, take care of yourself, and then find your way back, please, to the number of your breakout.